Have you ever wondered why some people seem to attract success effortlessly while others struggle despite working twice as hard? What if I told you that the difference isn't luck, talent, or even hard work, but rather a hidden principle that's been concealed from the masses for thousands of years? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Stay with me until the end of this video, because what I'm about to share might completely transform how you approach your goals and dreams. Throughout history, a select few individuals have understood and applied a powerful technique that seems to defy our conventional understanding of achievement. From ancient Egyptian pharaohs to modern billionaires, this principle has been whispered in secret chambers and passed down through exclusive lineages. Has this ever happened to you? You set a goal, work tirelessly toward it, face obstacle after obstacle, only to watch someone else reach the same destination with apparent ease. The traditional narrative we've all been fed is that success requires suffering, that achievement demands sacrifice, that you must no pain, no gain your way through life. But what if this narrative was deliberately designed to keep you trapped in struggle while others float effortlessly to the top? This ancient technique challenges everything we've been taught about the relationship between effort and reward. It suggests that the universe operates on principles most of us haven't been educated about. Principles that, when understood and applied correctly, can collapse time and space between you and your desires. Imagine waking up tomorrow with a completely different relationship to achievement. Picture yourself manifesting your goals with the same natural ease as breathing. What would your life look like if the things you desire most simply flowed to you instead of you having to chase after them? I stumbled upon this hidden knowledge during a period of intense frustration in my own life. I had followed all the conventional advice, worked hard, stayed disciplined, made sacrifices, yet success remained elusive. It wasn't until I encountered an obscure manuscript that contained teachings so controversial, so contrary to our modern productivity culture, that I initially dismissed them as fantasy. But something compelled me to experiment with these principles, and what happened next was nothing short of miraculous. The very goals I had been straining to reach for years suddenly materialized with minimal effort on my part. What makes this approach so different from the thousands of self-help strategies flooding the market today? Why has this technique remained hidden while less effective methods are promoted everywhere? And most importantly, how can you apply these ancient secrets to your own life starting today? The answer lies in understanding a fundamental misconception about the nature of reality itself, a misconception that has kept humanity unnecessarily struggling for millennia. Subscribe to join our journey toward flow mastery and receive more transformative insights that could change how you experience life. The depth of this technique rests in something far greater than mere productivity tactics. We're not talking about task management apps or Pomodoro timers. This is about tapping into something primordial, the natural flow of the universe itself. When you align with this flow, work doesn't feel like work anymore. It becomes an expression, a dance with time rather than a battle against it. This wisdom has been hidden in plain sight for millennia, nestled within ancient Chinese philosophy. Laozi, the founder of Taoism, observed something profound about nature that modern society has largely forgotten. He noticed that water, seemingly the softest, most yielding element, could overcome even the hardest stone over time. Not through force, but through persistence and alignment with natural patterns. This is the essence of Wu Wei, action through non-action. The ancient sages spent decades observing the subtle flows of nature, how bamboo bends rather than breaks in strong winds, how rivers carve paths of least resistance, how animals work in harmony with seasonal cycles rather than against them. This isn't mystical mumbo-jumbo. It's profound environmental intelligence that our ancestors codified into practical wisdom. What makes this approach so transformative is that it doesn't require you to add more to your already busy life. Instead, it asks you to subtract, to remove the resistance points, to stop swimming upstream, to find the current that's already moving in your direction. It's about making decisions that honor your natural rhythm rather than trying to force yourself into someone else's template for success. There's a hidden truth here that few productivity experts acknowledge. Energy flows where attention goes, but attention flows most easily where your natural talents and interests already exist. The resistance we feel when tackling certain tasks isn't always something to overcome. Sometimes it's valuable feedback from our deepest self. Behind the scenes of every overnight success story is someone who found their flow state, that perfect alignment between challenge and capability, where time seems to disappear. But here's the revelation most miss. Flow isn't just about individual tasks. It can become a life philosophy. When I first encountered this approach, it completely shifted my perspective on work. Tasks I'd been procrastinating on suddenly felt different. Not because the tasks changed, but because my relationship to them transformed. I stopped fighting against my nature and started working with it, like a sailor adjusting sails to catch the wind rather than rowing against the current. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this ancient wisdom translates into practical strategies for our modern lives. The journey toward effortless productivity isn't about perfection, but about alignment, finding that sweet spot where your natural strengths meet the world's needs. If what I'm sharing resonates with your experience of struggling against time rather than flowing with it, write "Finding My Flow" in the comments. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring what might seem counterintuitive at first. In our hyperproductive world, we're conditioned to believe that achievement comes from constant motion, from piling on more tasks and responsibilities. But the Taoist masters understood a profound truth. The path to accomplishing everything actually lies in doing less, not more. Tap subscribe now to continue exploring the science of flow states and receive notifications when we release new perspectives on conscious living. This revelation transformed my own journey when I first encountered it. I was that person with color-coded planners and endless to-do lists, yet feeling perpetually behind. The breakthrough came when I realized that my frantic activity was creating resistance against the natural flow of events. In Taoism, there exists a beautiful concept called Wu-yi, often translated as non-action or effortless action. But don't be mistaken. This isn't about being lazy or passive. Rather, it's about aligning your actions so perfectly with the universe's natural energy that they become almost effortless. Think of it as the difference between swimming against a powerful current versus positioning yourself to move with it. When we practice Wu-yi, we become like water, not forcing our way through obstacles, but flowing around them, finding the path of least resistance. This mindset shift is powerful because it transforms how we approach challenges. Instead of exhausting ourselves, pushing against immovable forces, we learn to identify the natural openings where our energy can be most effective. I've witnessed this hidden truth play out countless times with clients who come to me burned out and depleted. They're doing everything right, according to conventional wisdom, working longer hours, multitasking, sacrificing sleep, yet feeling further from their goals. The transformation begins when they embrace selective attention rather than divided attention, when they learn to distinguish between busy work and meaningful action. Behind the scenes of every seemingly effortless accomplishment is this principle at work. Consider how a skilled martial artist doesn't rely on brute force, but on precision, timing, and using their opponent's energy. Or how a master negotiator knows when to speak and, more importantly, when to remain silent. The decisions we make about where not to direct our energy become just as crucial as where we do invest it. This isn't merely about productivity techniques. It's about a fundamental shift in consciousness that ripples through every aspect of life. It's about recognizing that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is nothing at all, creating space for the right action to emerge naturally. If this perspective on effortless action resonates with your experience, write in the comments, "Flow, not force." I'd love to hear how this principle might be showing up in your own life. When we talk about vibrational frequencies, we're diving into something far more profound than just New Age philosophy. Everything, from the chair you're sitting on to your thoughts about tomorrow's meeting, exists as energy vibrating at different frequencies. This isn't mystical thinking. It's actually rooted in quantum physics. At the subatomic level, everything is in constant motion, creating vibrational patterns unique to each entity and circumstance. Think about those moments when you walk into a room and immediately sense the vibe. That's not just a figure of speech. You're literally feeling the collective energy, frequencies present in that space. Our bodies are remarkably sophisticated instruments that detect these subtle energies, often before our conscious mind processes them. Now here's where the transformation happens in your manifestation journey. When you force outcomes through sheer willpower and desperate action, you create dissonant vibrations that actually repel what you're trying to attract. It's like trying to push two magnets together at their negative poles. The harder you push, the stronger the resistance becomes. I've witnessed this hidden truth time and again in my own life. When I was obsessively focused on achieving certain goals, tightening my grip on every detail and outcome, I actually created an energetic battlefield rather than a receptive space. The universe doesn't respond well to this kind of forceful demand. Instead, the most powerful manifestations occur in states of aligned action, where your efforts feel natural, inspired, and almost effortless. This doesn't mean you don't work hard. Rather, your work comes from a place of calm certainty rather than desperate necessity. Think of it as the difference between forcing a river to flow uphill versus building your boat to work with the current. Both require effort, but one works harmoniously with universal laws while the other exhausts you fighting against them. The journey toward effective manifestation involves learning to detect when you're creating this dissonance. Your emotional state is your best indicator. When you feel anxious, desperate, or obsessive about outcomes, you're likely creating resistance. When you feel open, inspired, and curious, you're aligning with universal flow. Now I want to go even deeper into how we can practically shift our vibrational state to become more magnetically aligned with what we desire to create. The revelations I've discovered about how our brain chemistry actually changes when we shift from forced effort to aligned action have completely transformed my approach to manifestation. If any of this resonates with your own experiences of pushing versus allowing, write vibrational alignment in the comments. I'd love to know who else is exploring this territory of conscious creation. But a crucial revelation of the quantum manifestation approach is that trying too hard often creates a dissonance within your vibrational field. It's like playing a beautiful guitar with strings that are too tightly wound. The sound becomes strained, unpleasant, and ultimately ineffective. This is where the paradoxical power of effortless action comes into play. When you align your energy with the frequency of your desired outcome, you create a natural resonance that requires less force to maintain. Think about those moments in your life when everything seemed to flow perfectly, when opportunities appeared at just the right time, when the perfect person walked into your life unexpectedly, or when a solution emerged without struggle. These weren't coincidences. They were moments of perfect vibrational alignment. The hidden truth that many manifestation teachers miss is that whispering at the right frequency produces far greater results than shouting at the wrong one. Your subtle, aligned energy speaks volumes in the quantum field. This isn't about being passive, quite the opposite. It's about becoming so attuned to the frequency of your desires that your actions naturally flow from that state of being. I've witnessed remarkable transformations in people who shifted from forceful striving to this effortless alignment. One client spent years aggressively pursuing financial abundance through constant hustle and grinding work ethics. The result? Burnout, strained relationships, and money that seemed to flow out as quickly as it came in. When she finally embraced the principle of effortless action, aligning her energy first and acting from that aligned state, her entire experience transformed. Opportunities found her. Collaborative partnerships formed naturally, and her income actually increased while her stress decreased. This journey into quantum manifestation reveals that the universe responds not to the volume of your efforts, but to the clarity of your signal. Like tuning a radio precisely to your favorite station, when you're aligned with the frequency of what you desire, you receive it clearly, without static or interference. Now I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how your perception, the very lens through which you view reality, actually shapes the quantum field around you. Because understanding this principle will completely transform how you approach your manifestation practice on a daily basis. If you're resonating with this approach to manifestation that values alignment over force, write in the comments, "Aligned energy, not effort." I'd love to know if this perspective shifts something for you too. The most profound aspect of mastering energy flow is understanding that it creates order amidst what would otherwise be chaos. Think about it like the difference between a symphony orchestra with a conductor versus one without. The notes themselves don't change, but the harmony, that seamless coordination of timing and expression, makes all the difference in the world. This subtle orchestration is precisely what Wu Wei offers us in our daily lives. Now I want to go even deeper into this notion, because there's a critical misunderstanding that often emerges when people first encounter these principles. Many misconstrue effortless action as an invitation to passivity, as though it means sitting back and expecting the universe to handle everything while we do nothing. Nothing could be further from the truth. The confusion stems from our Western tendency to view action and non-action as binary opposites. But in Taoist philosophy, they exist on a spectrum of engagement. Wu Wei is less about whether you act and more about how you act, the quality of presence you bring to each moment. I've discovered through my own transformation that effortless action actually requires tremendous discipline. It demands that we develop an exquisite sensitivity to timing, that we learn to recognize the hidden currents of opportunity flowing through our lives. The paradox here is that such receptivity takes practice, awareness, and often years of committed attention. Think about a martial artist who, after decades of training, can respond to an attack with perfect economy of movement. Their response appears effortless, precisely because of the countless hours of preparation that preceded that moment. The same principle applies whether you're managing a team at work, raising children, or navigating a difficult conversation with a loved one. The journey toward this kind of effortless effectiveness isn't always comfortable. It often requires us to relinquish our attachment to controlling outcomes and instead trust in the process. This doesn't mean abandoning our goals or aspirations. Rather, it means pursuing them with a lighter touch, with more flexibility and adaptability. I've noticed in my own experience that when I force solutions, I typically create more problems. But when I align my actions with the natural flow of circumstances, remarkable things happen with seemingly minimal effort. Doors open, timing aligns, and what once felt like pushing a boulder uphill becomes more like guiding a boat downstream. This mindset shift represents one of the most powerful revelations available to us in a culture that often glorifies struggle and hustle. What if our greatest impact comes not from exhausting ourselves, but from finding that sweet spot where our unique gifts meet the world's natural rhythms? If you've experienced moments in your life where everything just seemed to click into place without strain or struggle, write in the comments, "I've felt the flow." I'd love to hear about those experiences and continue exploring this fascinating territory together. When you truly understand Wui, you begin to recognize that it's not about sitting back and letting life happen to you. It represents a profound transformation in how we perceive our role in the cosmos. This refined perception allows us to detect life's natural rhythms, those subtle currents that most people miss entirely because they're too busy forcing their way through existence. I've witnessed this revelation countless times in my students. They arrive thinking spiritual alignment means passive acceptance, but leave understanding that it's about becoming exquisitely attuned to timing and opportunity. It's the difference between frantically paddling upstream and skillfully navigating with the current. Both involve action, but one exhausts while the other empowers. The universe responds not to wishful thinking or inaction disguised as patience, but to clear intention paired with aligned action. This is the hidden truth that separates those who merely dream from those who manifest. When you set your internal compass with precision and then move in harmony with the greater forces at play, doors begin to open that previously seemed locked. Think of it as dancing with a partner. You don't just stand still, nor do you manhandle your partner across the floor. You feel the music, sense your partner's movements, and contribute your own energy in a way that creates something beautiful and effortless. This dance of intention and aligned action creates a resonance that the universe naturally amplifies. Now, I want to go even deeper into this conscious participation with life. What many don't realize is that our deepest impact often comes not from our most forceful efforts, but from those moments when we're so perfectly aligned that our presence itself becomes a catalyst. This isn't passive. It requires extraordinary awareness, courage, and the willingness to respond authentically to what each moment is asking of us. The journey towards Sai, mastering this balance between doing and being, transforms not just our external circumstances, but our entire relationship with existence. We move from seeing ourselves as separate entities struggling against life to recognizing that we're integral participants in its unfolding. This shift in perception doesn't happen overnight. It's cultivated through consistent practice and humble reflection on our experiences. If what I'm describing resonates with your own experiences or intuitions about how life works, write in the comments, "I'm learning to dance with life." I'd love to know how you're navigating this balance in your own journey. This subtle nuance points to a pattern I've noticed in our modern spiritual communities. Many seekers misinterpret Wu Wei as an excuse to remain passive in life. They confuse non-doing with doing nothing, creating a spiritual justification for inaction or avoidance. I've witnessed conversations where people claim they're surrendering to the universe, when they're actually avoiding making difficult decisions or taking responsibility for their circumstances. The Taoist masters would likely find this interpretation puzzling. Their understanding of Wu Wei wasn't about sitting back and letting life happen to you. Rather, it was about aligning your actions so perfectly with the natural flow that effort becomes effortless. Think about great athletes in their zone or artists completely absorbed in their craft. They're exerting tremendous skill and discipline, yet it appears almost effortless. True mastery begins with inner work, not force. This revelation transformed my approach to challenges. Instead of pushing against resistance, I learned to first understand its nature and source. This internal alignment creates an entirely different relationship with external action. When we're aligned within, our outer actions become more powerful, yet require less struggle. The hidden truth about transformation is that force creates counterforce. Push against something, and it pushes back with equal resistance. This fundamental principle explains why so many of our efforts to change ourselves or others often backfire. The more aggressively we attack our habits or try to control situations, the stronger the resistance becomes. Behind the scenes of every effortless master, whether in martial arts, business, art, or spiritual practice, is someone who has done the invisible inner work of alignment. They've developed what the Taoists might call an intuitive relationship with reality, feeling the currents rather than fighting them. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by examining how these ancient principles translate into practical wisdom for our modern lives. The journey toward effortless action requires us to reconsider our relationship with control and surrender. It's not about abandoning goals or responsibility, but approaching them with a different mindset, one that recognizes how to work with natural patterns rather than against them. If you're connecting with these ideas about effortless mastery and the balance between action and non-action, write in the comments. Finding the flow. I'd love to know how many of you are exploring this delicate balance in your own lives. The secret of Wu Wei reveals itself when we understand that non-doing isn't about passive inaction at all. It's about what I call vigilant receptivity. The Hermetic principle of vibration teaches us that everything in the universe moves constantly. Nothing remains still. When we align our actions with this natural flow, we're not being lazy. We're actually becoming more effective. You're allowing the current to carry you while maintaining just enough awareness to steer. This vigilant receptivity transforms how we navigate life's challenges. Instead of trying to force outcomes through sheer willpower, you begin to sense the underlying patterns that govern change. This shift in perspective is remarkably liberating. You'll notice how much energy you've been wasting on resistance, fighting against situations that were actually trying to guide you toward more alignment. Behind every frustrating circumstance lies an opportunity for this transformation. When I first began practicing this principle, I was stunned by how much clearer my decision-making became. The mental fog lifted as I stopped overthinking and started trusting the natural wisdom that emerges when we quiet our restless minds. This isn't just philosophy. It's practical wisdom that changes how you operate in the real world. The Taoist masters understood something profound about human nature: our tendency to overcomplicate. We believe more effort equals better results, but often the opposite is true. When you align with universal vibrations rather than fighting against them, both chaos and stagnation naturally dissolve. You become like water, powerful not through force, but through persistent flow around obstacles. Now, I want to go even deeper into this wisdom by exploring how these ancient principles translate into modern life. The journey toward mastering Wu Wei happens gradually, through small daily shifts in how you respond to life's demands. Each time you choose aligned action over forced effort, you strengthen this capacity. Each time you notice yourself straining unnecessarily, you have the opportunity to pivot toward a more harmonious approach. What's fascinating about this practice is how it reveals the hidden connections between seemingly unrelated aspects of life. Your relationships, career, health, all benefit from this fundamental recalibration of how you engage with the world. The resistance that creates suffering in one area often mirrors the same pattern playing out elsewhere. As you develop this awareness, you'll witness a ripple effect of positive change throughout your experience. If what I'm describing resonates with something you've felt but couldn't quite articulate, type "flowing not" forcing in the comments below. The sweet spot I'm describing isn't about frozen perfection. It's a dynamic state of readiness. Think of a martial artist who stands perfectly balanced, not rigid like a statue, but alive with potential energy. This state of alertness without tension is what allows for immediate, precise action when the moment calls for it. When we're in this zone, we're intensely present, yet completely relaxed. Our awareness expands in all directions simultaneously. It's like having eyes in the back of your head. Not literally, of course, but that sensation where you can feel what's happening around you without having to look. I've experienced this transformation in my own journey with meditation. In the beginning, I'd try so hard to focus that my mind would actually become more agitated. The breakthrough came when I realized that true attention isn't about gripping, it's about opening. The moment I stopped fighting against distractions and instead learned to dance with them, everything changed. This principle applies beautifully to life's challenges. When we face difficulties, most of us instinctively tighten up and resist. We brace ourselves against the storm. But what if we approached life's challenges the way a skilled surfer approaches massive waves? Instead of fighting against the ocean's power, they align with it, finding the hidden opportunities within what others see as threats. Behind the scenes of every master's performance, whether in sports, arts, or business, is this same fundamental revelation. Force against force creates only friction and fatigue. True impact comes from alignment with the natural flow. The hidden truth here is that relaxation isn't the opposite of effectiveness. It's often its prerequisite. The most decisive actions often come from the most settled minds. Think about those moments in your life when you've had your greatest insights or made your best decisions. I'd bet they didn't come when you were stressed and overthinking, but rather in moments of clarity and calm. Now, I want to go even deeper into this fascinating paradox of power through relaxation, by exploring how this applies not just to individual moments, but to our entire approach to learning and mastery. If what I've shared resonates with your own experiences, write in the comments. Flow over force, so I know we're connecting on this level. Surfing life's currents rather than exhausting ourselves, swimming against them perfectly captures the Wu Wei principle in action. It's about recognizing the natural flow and harmonizing with it instead of forcing our way through resistance. When we approach challenges as surfers, we position ourselves to catch the energy already in motion, using minimal effort to achieve maximum results. This perspective shift represents a profound transformation in how we engage with our world. Consider how water, gentle, yielding, and seemingly weak, eventually carves through solid rock, creating magnificent canyons over time. There's a hidden truth here that challenges our conventional understanding of strength. The persistent, patient approach of water outlasts the apparent solidity of mountains not through brute force, but through consistent alignment with natural principles. Water doesn't fight the mountain. It simply follows its nature, finding the path of least resistance while never abandoning its journey forward. This wisdom extends beautifully into our relationships too. When we stop trying to control others and instead learn to dance with their energy, we discover a more harmonious way of connecting. It's like a revelation that what we perceived as obstacles were actually potential pathways all along. The authentic power comes not from domination, but from deep understanding and alignment. Now, I want to go even deeper into this profound concept by exploring how ancient Taoist masters applied these principles in practical situations. They recognized that timing matters tremendously, knowing when to act and when to refrain from action. Much like a skilled martial artist who doesn't oppose force with force, but instead redirects energy, we can learn to recognize the currents around us and position ourselves advantageously. The journey toward mastering Wu Wei isn't about passivity, quite the opposite. It requires acute awareness, patience, and the wisdom to distinguish between necessary effort and wasteful struggle. Think about the last time you tried to force a solution versus when you stepped back and allowed a natural resolution to emerge. The difference in both the outcome and your experience was likely dramatic. Behind the scenes of what appears as effortless mastery lies dedicated practice and the cultivation of a receptive mindset. The masters who embody Wu Wei haven't eliminated effort. They've refined it to its essential form, stripping away the unnecessary tension and resistance that drains our energy. They've learned that sometimes the most impactful action is non-action, allowing space for natural processes to unfold without interference. If you're resonating with these insights about flowing with life rather than fighting against it, write in the comments, "I'm learning to surf, not swim." I'd love to hear how this principle might be showing up in your own experiences. The resilience of bamboo offers us a profound lesson about navigating life's challenges. Unlike the mighty oak that stands rigid against the storm, bamboo's secret lies in its willingness to yield. When powerful winds blow, bamboo bends completely, sometimes all the way to the ground, but rarely breaks. Once the storm passes, it gently returns to its upright position, unharmed and perhaps even stronger than before. This natural wisdom reflects an ancient understanding that true power often manifests not in rigid resistance, but in adaptability. Consider how this principle appears in the martial arts traditions of Asia, where masters don't meet force with equal force but redirect energy, using an opponent's momentum against them. The strongest practitioners aren't necessarily those with the most muscle, but those who understand the dance of yielding and advancing. We can witness this transformation in our own lives when we face unexpected challenges. Those who approach difficulties with rigid expectations often experience the most painful breaks. Meanwhile, those who cultivate flexibility, both mentally and emotionally, discover hidden reservoirs of resilience they never knew they possessed. The journey toward this kind of balanced strength isn't always intuitive. especially in cultures that glorify standing firm and never backing down. Yet behind the scenes of every great achievement, you'll typically find someone who knew precisely when to hold their ground and when to sway with circumstances. This wisdom extends far beyond physical confrontations. In relationships, the ability to listen receptively without immediately imposing your viewpoint creates space for genuine connection. In career paths, those who can adapt to changing conditions rather than clinging to outdated approaches often find themselves thriving where others struggle. What makes this perspective so powerful is that it doesn't require abandoning strength. Quite the opposite. It reveals that true strength includes gentleness, true power encompasses receptivity, and true wisdom recognizes when each quality is needed. Think of water. Nothing is. Softer and more yielding, yet given time, it carves canyons through solid rock. Now, I want to go even deeper into this concept by exploring how we can practically apply bamboo wisdom to the challenges we face in our daily lives. The principles may be ancient, but their applications are remarkably relevant to our modern struggles. If this perspective on strength and flexibility resonates with your experience, write "bendable, not breakable" in the comments below. The rhythm of our relationship with the universe works like a dance. Sometimes we lead, and sometimes we follow. When we resist this natural flow, trying to control every outcome from a place of fear, we're essentially stepping on the universe's toes during this cosmic dance. I've noticed this pattern repeatedly in my own journey toward manifestation mastery. Those moments when I grip too tightly are precisely when everything seems to slip through my fingers. This controller mode is like having a clenched fist. Nothing new can enter. It stems from deep-seated fears about what might happen if we surrender even slightly. But here's the profound truth I've discovered through both research and personal experience. The universe isn't working against you. It's constantly responding to your innermost state of being. Think about the most significant breakthroughs in your life. Weren't many of them unexpected gifts that arrived when you finally released your death grip on a particular outcome? This paradox of manifestation reveals that our willingness to release control often creates the very space needed for our desires to materialize. The transformation comes when we shift from a mindset of scarcity and fear to one of abundance and trust. This internal revolution doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey of small, consistent realignments. Each time you catch yourself white-knuckling through life, simply noticing this pattern creates an opening for change. What truly fascinates me about this process is how our nervous system plays a crucial role. When we're constantly in fight or flight mode, our biology literally cannot access the creative, receptive states necessary for manifestation. The body doesn't distinguish between physical threats and perceived emotional ones. That looming deadline triggers the same stress response as a predator would for our ancestors. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring the hidden mechanisms behind this controller pattern. The revelation that changed everything for me was understanding that control is simply the ego's misguided attempt at creating safety. When we recognize this, we can approach our manifestation practice with compassion rather than frustration. Your relationship with uncertainty becomes the testing ground for this work. Instead of bracing against the unknown, can you remain open to possibilities beyond your current imagination? This isn't about passive acceptance, but about active participation with life's unfolding wisdom. The behind-the-scenes work of manifestation happens in these subtle inner adjustments. How you respond when plans change, when expectations aren't met, when timing doesn't align with your schedule. These moments aren't obstacles to your manifestation practice. They are your practice. If you've ever caught yourself trying to micromanage the universe, know that you're not alone in this journey. It's perhaps the most universal human tendency. Drop a comment below with the phrase, "I'm learning to dance," if you recognize this pattern in your own life and are committed to finding a more harmonious rhythm with the universe. When we attempt to control everything in our lives, we unknowingly set a dangerous trap for ourselves. This relentless pursuit of control actually creates the very chaos we're trying to avoid. It's one of those profound paradoxes that reveals itself only after we've spent years chasing the illusion of perfect control. Think about it. The tighter we grip, the more things seem to slip through our fingers. That promotion you're desperately trying to secure, that relationship you're micromanaging, that perfect image you're trying to maintain. The more you try to force outcomes, the more resistance you create. This constant struggle generates an undercurrent of anxiety that never quite goes away. It's exhausting, isn't it? The hidden truth here is that security doesn't come from controlling external circumstances. It emerges from developing internal resilience. When we finally realize this, a profound transformation begins. This is where the sensitive observer mode comes in, a state of being that's revolutionized my own journey with uncertainty. Instead of frantically trying to control everything, you take a step back. You create a small inner space of stillness from which you can simply watch what's happening, both outside and inside yourself. In this mode, you're not disengaged. Quite the opposite. You're deeply present, but without the compulsive need to interfere. You observe your thoughts about a situation without immediately acting on them. You notice emotions rising and falling without being completely overtaken by them. There's a subtle but profound shift from "I am my anxiety" to "I notice anxiety appearing." The power of this approach lies in its gentleness. You're not fighting against reality anymore. You're flowing with it while maintaining your center. When unexpected challenges emerge, instead of immediately strategizing how to control them, you first observe them with curiosity and openness. What might this situation be teaching me? What possibilities might exist that I can't see yet? This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. Rather, it's about responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. The decisions you make from this place come from clarity rather than fear. You can still take decisive action, but it's action that aligns with deeper wisdom rather than superficial control. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this observer mode transforms not just our relationship with ourselves, but with everyone around us. When we stop trying to control others' behaviors, opinions, and choices, something remarkable happens in our connections. If this perspective on control and observation resonates with your own experience, write "inner stillness" in the comments below. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic because what we're really discussing here is a journey of conscious awakening. When we talk about mental transmutation as a pathway to achieve true change, we're uncovering one of the most profound revelations about human potential. This principle operates through a fascinating mechanism. Our internal landscape creates ripple effects that eventually manifest in our external world. Think about it. When you're in a state of worry, how differently do you perceive and interact with the world compared to when you're in a state of confidence? The external circumstances might be identical, but your experience of them transforms completely. The hidden truth most people miss is that we don't need to wait for external circumstances to change before we can experience the reality we desire. By deliberately transmuting our mental and emotional states first, we create a powerful alignment that pulls our external reality into harmony with our internal world. This is why so many people struggle with creating lasting change. They're working against the natural order of manifestation, trying to force external shifts without first establishing the corresponding internal foundation. It's like trying to grow a garden in soil you haven't prepared. You might see small sprouts appear, but they'll struggle to flourish. What makes this approach so revolutionary is that it places the power of transformation squarely in your hands. You're no longer at the mercy of circumstances, waiting for the perfect conditions before you can feel how you want to. Feel or live how you want to live. Instead, you become the conscious architect of your experience. The impact of this understanding cannot be overstated. When you grasp that your internal state is the creative force behind your external reality, you gain access to a level of personal power most people never tap into. You begin operating from a place of deliberate creation rather than reactive response. But there's a certain mindset required to implement this wisdom effectively. You must be willing to take complete responsibility for your current experience, recognizing that your predominant thoughts and emotions have played a crucial role in creating it. This isn't about blame or judgment. It's about empowerment through ownership. The transformation begins when you stop waiting for the world to change and instead focus on becoming the change you wish to see reflected back to you. This is the essence of conscious alignment through mental transmutation, the understanding that by deliberately shifting your internal state, you initiate a cascade of changes that eventually restructure your entire reality. If what I've shared resonates with your experience, type "I create from within" in the comments below. This subtle synchronization of intention and energy explains why sometimes our efforts succeed almost without resistance, and other times face continuous obstacles. Just like a traffic light system governs the flow of vehicles, there's an invisible system that regulates the flow of our manifestations. Green lights represent alignment, when your actions, thoughts, and intentions harmonize with universal vibrations, creating a path of least resistance. Red lights signal friction, when we push against the natural order, attempting to force outcomes that aren't aligned with deeper truths or timing. I've witnessed this principle transform people's approach to challenges. Rather than viewing obstacles as enemies to overcome through sheer force, they begin recognizing them as valuable feedback, perhaps signaling a need to adjust direction, timing, or method. This revelation often leads to profound shifts in how we navigate our journeys, moving from exhausting struggle to intuitive flow. What's fascinating is how this vibrational matching operates beneath our conscious awareness. You might have experienced moments when you're genuinely in service to others without expectation, and suddenly opportunities appear effortlessly. Conversely, when acting from desperation or pure self-interest, even promising situations mysteriously fall apart. The universe seems to respond not just to what we do, but to the energetic signature behind our actions. This understanding doesn't mean abandoning ambition or goals. Instead, it invites us to pursue desires with awareness of how we're engaging with the broader field of energy around us. Are we pushing against the current or skillfully navigating within it? The difference dramatically affects both our results and our experience of the journey. Now, I want to go even deeper into this topic by exploring how this principle appears in various cultural traditions across time. Ancient wisdom traditions, from Eastern philosophies to indigenous practices, have recognized this same pattern using different language. They understood that human consciousness doesn't exist in isolation, but participates in an intricate dance with forces larger than ourselves. This recognition wasn't mystical escapism, but practical wisdom for effective living. The truth is that every thought pattern, emotional state, and intention carries its own distinct frequency. When we operate at higher frequencies, characterized by gratitude, compassion, and creative service, we naturally attract experiences reflecting those same qualities. It's not about perfection, but about honest awareness of our internal landscape and making adjustments when needed. If you're resonating with these ideas and recognizing patterns from your own experiences, write "I see the patterns" in the comments below. This acknowledgement is often the first step toward more conscious participation with these hidden dynamics. The beauty of this pause lies not just in what it gives us personally, but in how it transforms our interactions with others. When we cultivate this inner stillness, people around us can feel it. There's a gravity, a centeredness that draws others in. This isn't something you have to announce or advertise. It simply radiates from you when you've done the inner work. I've witnessed remarkable transformations in people who've embraced this practice. One client of mine, a high-powered executive who was known for his reactive decision-making, began taking just 3 minutes each morning to sit in contemplative silence. Within weeks, his team reported a profound shift in the office dynamics. "It's like he's the eye of the hurricane now," one colleague told me, completely steady while everything swirls around him. This reveals something profound about the journey toward wisdom. The sage's pause isn't about disconnecting from reality. It's about engaging with it more fully, but from a place of chosen response rather than automatic reaction. There's immense power in this distinction. When we surrender our desperate grip on controlling outcomes, something counterintuitive happens. We often gain more meaningful influence. This apparent paradox lies at the heart of ancient wisdom traditions. By releasing our attachment to specific results, we align ourselves with the larger flow of life rather than constantly swimming against it. Think about water for a moment. When faced with an obstacle, water doesn't force its way through. It simply flows around, continuing its journey. There's profound wisdom in this natural intelligence that we can learn from. The hidden truth in surrendering isn't about giving up. It's about recognizing when pushing harder actually creates more resistance. I'm reminded of a beautiful concept from Eastern philosophy called Wu Wei, often translated as non-doing or effortless action. It's the art of accomplishing things by working with the inherent nature of a situation rather than imposing our will upon it. This doesn't mean being passive or indifferent. Quite the opposite. It requires deep engagement and awareness, but without the exhausting struggle of trying to force reality into our preferred shape. Now, I want to go even deeper into this relationship between inner stillness and effective action. There's a fascinating connection between how we manage our internal state and the quality of our external results. When we operate from a place of inner chaos, constantly reacting to every trigger, emotion, and thought, our actions tend to create more of the same turbulence in our outer world. If any of this resonates with your own experience of finding balance between surrender and action, write "Finding My Flow" in the comments below. The most profound transformation in your consciousness occurs when you realize you've been swimming against the current your entire life. Think about it. We're taught from childhood that success means dominating, controlling, and imposing our will upon reality. We chase, we force, we struggle. Yet nature reveals a different truth altogether. When you observe a river, you'll notice something remarkable. Water doesn't fight against obstacles. It simply flows around them, always finding the path of least resistance. This isn't weakness, it's profound intelligence. Water doesn't waste energy battling what cannot be moved. Instead, it adapts, continues forward, and ultimately reshapes even the hardest stone through consistent, patient action. This revelation changed everything in my journey. True power doesn't come from domination. It emerges when we align ourselves with the underlying currents of existence. When you become the flow, rather than battling against it, you access resources and solutions that remain invisible to those still trapped in struggle. Behind the scenes of personal development, there's a hidden wisdom rarely discussed. Those I call the guardians of illusion, the forces that keep consciousness trapped, operate through three primary mechanisms: laziness, impatience, and paralysis. These mental states aren't simply character flaws, they're sophisticated traps for the ego. Laziness whispers that meaningful change requires too much effort. Impatience demands immediate results when true transformation follows natural timing. Paralysis freezes you between conflicting choices when the path forward requires decisive action. Notice how each trap prevents alignment with life's natural flow. What's fascinating is that these guardians don't need to use force. They simply need to keep you disconnected from your natural state of flow consciousness. The moment you recognize these patterns operating in your life is the moment a door opens to a different reality altogether. I've discovered that breaking free from these traps doesn't require superhuman willpower. It begins with a simple shift in perception, seeing yourself not as separate from the flow of life, but as an expression of it. This isn't some abstract spiritual concept. It's a practical approach to navigating reality with greater ease and effectiveness. Now, I want to go even deeper into how this flow state consciousness manifests in everyday decisions, particularly when facing resistance. The revelations about how our minds create unnecessary struggle will completely transform how you approach challenges from this point forward. If what I'm sharing resonates with your own experience, write "I'm ready to flow" in the comments below. Now, I want to go even deeper into this transformation journey by exploring how intentional practice isn't just some abstract concept. It's the hidden doorway to insights that modern science is finally catching up to. What our ancestors intuitively understood through experience, laboratories are now confirming through rigorous studies. When you dedicate yourself to focused attention in any discipline, whether martial arts, mathematics, or meditation, you're literally rewiring neural pathways in ways that create access to what we might call woo states. Think about the revelations that come to musicians after thousands of hours of practice. Suddenly they're not just playing notes, they're channeling something beyond technique. This transcendent ability doesn't arrive by accident, but through a deliberate path of mastery that reshapes both mind and perception. Brain imaging studies now show us that expert practitioners actually process information differently. Their minds become more efficient, more integrated, allowing them to perceive patterns invisible to the untrained observer. The historical record is filled with figures who embodied this principle. Leonardo da Vinci's notebooks reveal a mind that seamlessly blended art and science through relentless observation and practice. Tesla spoke of visualizing his inventions in complete working detail before building them, a testament to his cultivated inner sight. Eastern martial arts masters demonstrated physical capabilities that seemed to defy conventional limitations of human biology. These weren't supernatural abilities. They were the natural outcomes of disciplined attention directed consistently toward specific domains of mastery. What's particularly fascinating is how these historical examples cut across cultural boundaries. Native American trackers could read subtle signs in nature invisible to colonial settlers. Chinese calligraphers achieved states of flow where brush, ink, and intention became one unified expression. Islamic geometric artists created patterns of such mathematical complexity they continue to astonish modern mathematicians. The common thread? Each devoted themselves to their craft, not just as a skill, but as a pathway to deeper understanding. The breakthrough moment in any discipline often comes when technical proficiency gives way to intuitive knowing. Musicians call it playing beyond yourself. Athletes describe it as being in the zone. And scientists refer to elegant solutions that appear suddenly after long contemplation of a problem. These aren't random occurrences, but the natural fruits of committed practice. Evidence that wooey isn't some mystical force, but a natural capacity we all possess, that can be developed through intentional engagement with the world. What makes this approach so powerful is that it doesn't require belief in anything supernatural, just a willingness to follow the path of disciplined attention and see where it leads. The insights that emerge aren't separate from everyday life, but deepen our connection to it, revealing the extraordinary within the ordinary. If you've ever experienced a moment where everything suddenly made sense in a new way, you've touched the edge of what consistent practice can reveal. If any of this resonates with your own experience of moments when practice led to unexpected insights, write, "I've glimpsed this clarity," in the comments below. Let's discuss what happens when these flow state principles become more than techniques and transform into a way of living. What I've discovered through years of exploration is that there's a profound difference between experiencing flow occasionally and embodying it as your default mode of operation. The masters I've studied don't try to get into flow. They've rewired their neural pathways to the point where presence has become their natural state. Think about this transformation as similar to learning any complex skill. At first, playing an instrument requires conscious thought for every note, but eventually, accomplished musicians simply express music through their being. Their fingers know where to go without deliberate instruction. This is the hidden truth behind flow mastery that few discuss. It's not about adding something new, but removing the barriers that block your natural state. When you witness someone who has internalized this way of being, you'll notice they carry a distinct energy. Their movements have an effortless quality. Their decisions arise from intuition rather than overthinking. Their speech flows without self-consciousness. In essence, they've deconstructed the artificial boundaries between self and experience that create resistance in the first place. I remember watching a master craftsman working with wood. His hands moved with such precision and ease that it appeared as if the wood itself was guiding him. When I asked about his process, he simply smiled and said, "I stopped getting in my own way years ago." That's the essence of what we're discussing, the journey toward getting out of your own way completely. Now, I want to go even deeper into this idea of becoming the river itself. When ancient Taoist philosophers spoke of being like water, they weren't offering a poetic metaphor. They were providing a practical framework for existence. Water doesn't resist obstacles. It simply finds the path of least resistance. It doesn't force its way through stone. It patiently shapes it over time. Water remains water whether in a teacup or an ocean, adapting its form while maintaining its essence. The revelation that changed everything for me was understanding that flow isn't something you achieve. It's something you allow. The yi-a, mind's natural state when unburdened by excessive thinking, self-criticism, and resistance, is flow. Children embody this before socialization teaches them to overthink. Watch how completely absorbed a child becomes when playing. That's not a technique they've mastered. It's their original nature before layers of complexity were added. This understanding transforms how we approach challenges. Instead of asking, "How can I force myself into flow?" begin asking, "What's blocking my natural state of flow right now?" The shift is subtle but revolutionary. One approach adds effort, the other removes obstacles. One fights against reality, the other aligns with it. If any of this resonates with your own experiences, write "flowing with life" in the comments. I'm curious how many of you have glimpsed this truth already in your own journey. The true transformation happens when we no longer chase flow, but become the flow itself. Those who've mastered this way of being don't need techniques or triggers. They've rewired their entire system to operate from this natural state of presence. If you've been following along with everything we've discussed, you might be wondering what's next on this journey. How do you move from practicing flow to embodying it? The answer lies in consistent practice until the practice itself dissolves. This is why I believe this work is so important. It's not just about performing better or feeling good temporarily. It's about returning to our original nature, where we function as integrated beings rather than fragmented minds, constantly battling ourselves. I hope this exploration has given you something valuable to consider in your own life. If you found meaning in these ideas and want to continue this journey together, consider subscribing to the channel, where we'll keep diving deeper into these transformative concepts. If you've made it all the way through and this message truly connected with you, type "I am the flow" in the comments below. I read every comment and love seeing which ideas resonate most. If this perspective shifted something for you today, a like on this video helps others discover these conversations too. There's a video right here that explores how to maintain this flow state during high-pressure situations. Click and continue with me over there as we take this understanding even further.